Some people think sharks are mindless predators, but let's be honest. Ever since Jaws hit the big screen, they've haunted our nightmares. If you're one of the rare few who isn't scared of these ocean giants, get ready to reconsider. And if you're already wary of sharks, this will only reinforce your fears. Here are the 20 scariest shark encounters ever caught on camera. Number 20. Hammerhead Circle Swimmer. This little bit of drone footage captures a moment that appears slightly sinister as a hammerhead shark can be seen circling a swimmer in the waters off the coast of Florida. The shark circles the swimmer, and the swimmer appears to have absolutely no clue that the shark is even there. Although, of the various species of sharks, the hammerhead is definitely not the scariest, it is certainly very interesting. The truly weird and wonderful shape of the unique hammerhead shark may seem like something straight from the pages of a fantasy novel, but these awesome creatures are adapted to find food in the most efficient and highly specialized way that you could imagine. That's right, their massive old mallet-shaped noggin is actually a big food scanner. The hammerhead shark is not only able to see a broader area on account of their extremely wide eyes, but their actual head is essentially a food detector. Inside that odd-shaped bonce is a whole collection of sensory organs called the ampullae of Lorenzini. This is a set of clever organs that can detect the electrical fields created by prey animals. It is especially well attuned to the frequency of its favorite dinner, stingrays. In all the recording of such things, there have only ever been 17 unprovoked attacks by hammerheads on humans and 0 fatalities. These sharks really are somewhat fixated on hunting and eating stingrays, and they are not in the least bit interested in eating you. No offense. Number 19. Tiger shark near swimmers. Some of the most dangerous sharks in the world's oceans, tiger sharks, are only second to the fearsome great white shark in their body counts for attacks on humans. They are frequently responsible for attacks on surfers in Australian waters and may well find kill orders on their heads. But these sharks don't just exist in the dangerous seas around Australia. They can be found all over the world in tropical and temperate waters. These creatures are considered near endangered in the contemporary world, as there has been so much trophy hunting by fishermen in recent years. It's no wonder these mighty creatures are mad at people and would bite your leg off as soon as look at you. This terrifying footage shows just how close the deadliest of sea predators can actually get to all of those fleshy limbs. This was apparently captured at the beach in Miami, and according to some, this is a tiger shark having a menacing swim around a group of people who are swimming too close to the shore. It seems as though the people are either completely unaware of the shark, or they're just really casual about dangerous, potential limb-munching predators within their vicinity. Number 18. Surfer fights off shark. Australian surfer Mick Fanning had a close call while competing in an event in South Africa. He made an extraordinary and daring escape after an extremely uncomfortable encounter with not one but 2 sharks. The final of the J-Bay Open was beginning when the first shark came along and approached the defending champion's surfboard, knocking him into the water. The lucky guy managed to escape injury and somehow punched one of the sharks in the back. He kicked and fought to get away. Then, the competition organizers rescued Fanning from the water with jet skis, sending the sharks packing. Meanwhile, the entire world was watching as the drama unfolded on live television. Fanning's mother recalled the incident as one of the most horrifying and helpless moments of her life. Can you even imagine it? You'd feel absolutely terrified. Indeed, the competition was then called off and presumably, everyone refrained from dipping their toes in the surf for at least a few minutes after having that close encounter. Number 17. Diver swims with shark. While spotting a great white shark would have most of us swimming extremely rapidly in the opposite direction and running for the safety of dry land, there is one woman who couldn't believe her luck when she happened upon a gigantic and super famous great white shark known as Deep Blue. Yes, this shark certainly gets around now, doesn't she? Anyways, marine biologist with the uncanny and appropriate name of Ocean Ramsey swam with the old lady of the sea off the coast of Hawaii. She said her incredible encounter filled her heart with joy and took her breath away. That's a brave woman. I'd certainly be breathless, but more likely from all the sprinting I would be doing as I ran away in terror. Though Ramsey maintains that great whites are really just misunderstood and that they swim around people all day long without eating them, so that's good then, I guess. She reckons that in all of her years of studying the behaviors of sharks, she's rarely seen them make a mistake with what they're eating. Now, I can't really determine how reassuring that is. Great white sharks don't necessarily want to eat people, that much is true. Shark bites are usually just a taste test to see if the creature in the shark's mouth is the one they actually want to eat. Apparently, they don't like the taste of people very much. But even if a shark only gives you a little sample nibble, that bite will likely as not leave you sleeping with the fishes anyways. Number 16. Shark in backyard. If you live in Florida, there is always a fairly substantial chance that some sort of wild animal will find its way into your backyard, or sometimes even into your own house. There are so many exciting and dangerous creatures to be found in that part of the world. You never know if you may wake up to an alligator on your porch swing or a giant snake in your mailbox, perhaps even an armadillo on your doorstep. But even the most seasoned Floridians would probably not anticipate what this guy discovered when he looked outside of his apartment. Yes, your eyes do not deceive you. That is indeed a shark in a swimming pool. How did it get there? Well, who could possibly say? The weather can be really rather fruity in Florida, so perhaps it was deposited via storm. Maybe this guy's neighbor was simply exploiting the extra freedoms that are apparently available to Florida's residents to basically do whatever they gosh darn please and got themselves an exotic pet. Could it be some kind of dopey frat boy prank? I mean, in Florida, it really could be any of these things or any number of other improbable answers. So what do you think it is that's going on here? And what in the world do you do if there happens to be a dangerous predator in your pool? Now it's time for today's topic. In early 2024, a terrifying encounter off the coast of Gansby, South Africa shocked locals and tourists alike. Known as the shark capital of the world, Gansby is no stranger to shark activity. But what happened that day left witnesses frozen in disbelief. According to reports, a group of friends were enjoying a casual swim when one man, identified as tourist Adil Malik, noticed a shadow approaching from the deep. Moments later, an enormous shark, far larger than a typical great white, breached the surface in a violent pursuit. Adil barely managed to react as the shark lunged toward him, its massive jaws wide open. Witnesses caught the chilling moment on camera, sparking debates online. While many believed it to be a giant great white shark, others speculated something far more sinister. Some claim this shark could belong to an undocumented species, potentially even a descendant of prehistoric predators. Local authorities have increased patrols in the area, urging caution for beachgoers. Marine biologists are now investigating whether shifting water temperatures or migration patterns could explain the shark's unusually large size. Was this a freak incident, or are larger, ancient predators emerging from the depths? One thing's certain, South Africa's waters may hold more mysteries than we think. Number 15. Face to face with great white shark. A guy named John Parker had a moment in which he believed he was about to meet his maker. He just might be one of the luckiest people on Earth since he managed to escape this extremely deadly situation with his life and his limbs fully intact. So, this guy, along with a few friends, was in the waters off the coast of the Western Cape of South Africa doing a spot of spearfishing, as one does when he had an encounter that would cause anyone to experience a sensation akin to dropping one's guts. A great white shark suddenly and silently appeared beside the guy, and it was all rather too close for comfort. But the guy, although clearly scared witless, still had to exit the water and not draw the attention of the shark as it had just made its presence known. The man surfaced rather rapidly, but you could feel the fear as he attempted to get back to the boat and locate anyone else who was still in the water. How would you feel in this situation? When it comes down to it, it ended up being nothing much more than a big fish swimming by, but it was still a big fish that could eat you as soon as look at you. That will make a person feel a certain way. Number 14. Kayaker fends off shark. The further we go into this list, the riskier the business of fishing in a kayak is beginning to appear. Here we are with yet another incident that involves a vulnerable, kayak-trapped person and a shark with a sudden and urgent sense of curiosity. Yikes! Mark McCracken, a construction worker with a passion for kayaking adventures, uploaded his close encounter with a persistent hammerhead shark in the waters off the shore of Gaviota State Beach near Santa Barbara, California. He was just paddling along, mostly minding his own business, when he attracted the attention of a hammerhead shark that seemed really interested in him and was not about to take no for an answer. That shark initially sculled up behind the boat and swam into it, so the kayaking man tried poking it with his paddle. This seemed to only engage the shark further in the pursuit. Each time McCracken walloped the shark with the paddle, it just came back and offered an answering bite or headbutt to the kayak. The standoff continued for what felt to McCracken like an eternity as he tried to head to the shore as fast as he could. Ultimately, he was completely fine and was able to upload his exciting encounter to the internet within moments of the heart-stopping incident. So that's a relief. Glad to see there was no long-lasting trauma. I just wonder whether or not a shark holds a grudge. Number 13. Cuba shark incident. Next up, we have a bit of footage that appears to have been taken all the way back in 2004. It's essentially a classic movie at this point. The video shows a guy who was apparently in the water at Santa Lucia in Cuba, and according to the uploader, they were down there to feed the sharks before taking tourists to see the underwater scene. I think they were meant to be feeding the sharks with fish and not with their own body parts, but sometimes stuff doesn't go entirely to plan. The bull shark, not aware of the etiquette involved in being fed in this manner, also took a sample from the diver's arm. It appeared to be a sizable chunk and really did cause rather a lot of red stuff to start gushing everywhere. I don't know about you, But that was the part that worried me the most. I mean, what if the rest of the shark's friends and family smelled all of that and figured dinner was ready? The diver seemed less perturbed about the situation than you would expect, though, and simply held the gaping flesh wound in place as he headed towards the fresh air above. According to his friend, it took a bunch of hospital help to patch him up, but like a madman, he returned to feed the bull sharks once he was all healed. Number 12. Shark attack. Turns out that a lot of divers are absolute nutters. These two were down there at 57 meters, apparently making a noise with a plastic bottle that is alleged to attract sharks. Now seriously, they were actually there trying to encourage the sharks to come to them. According to their recollections, they had been diving the previous day and had used the same technique to attract some sharks and had experienced some success. But on this particular day, they thought they would go deeper into the water in an attempt to find a bigger shark. Yes, you heard that correctly. They were actually trying to encourage bigger and badder sharks to come and find them, which is absolutely insane. Apparently, it worked. A large and pretty hostile shark appeared rapidly out of the darkness and lunged straight at the bottle guy. I'm assuming they made it out alive, but who really knows? This could be found footage, and perhaps they found it in the belly of a shark. Number 11. Bull shark attack. Here we have a diver who seems to have been out collecting abalones. This is basically just the common name for any kind of smallish to largish gastropod mollusks when they had a bit of a hairy moment. I wonder if their life flashed before their eyes. As usual, apparently all the details about this super scary encounter are a bit sketchy. There's a bit of footage doing the rounds that has had all the internet shrieking about how lucky the diver is to still have their full complement of limbs and, well, their life as well. The video appears to show a massive shark doing a number on the diver. It suddenly looms into the picture, seeming to appear out of nowhere, then dives towards the person at a rapid rate and does not appear to be slowing down for anything. Luckily, the diver had a spear gun in hand and was quick enough to use it to defend themselves against the shark that was definitely on the attack. It gets pretty gory, but it would have been a bloodbath either way, to be honest. Seriously, the footage is going to pop up in your dreams. Number 10. Shark gets stuck in cage. Well, this is one way to test out that your shark cage is functioning correctly. Although, frankly, would you really want to have some sort of guarantee before you were in the water surrounded by predators with bazillions of teeth and murder in their minds? Here we are in the mad world of diving with sharks and people willingly plunging into shark-infested waters with little more to protect themselves than a few rather flimsy-looking bars, a couple of tires, and some gaps that look large enough to actually allow a shark to swim straight inside the cage. The moment of terror comes when the shark suddenly thrashes violently, its massive head forcing its way partially into the cage through one of the larger gaps. The divers can be heard screaming through their regulators, gripping the bars in desperation as the shark's teeth graze the metal. But then again, what do I really know? I'm not mad enough to take this particular plunge. I'm sitting here in my pajamas right now. This footage was captured from inside the shark cage out in the warm waters near Guadalupe back in September of 2006. I don't really know if these crazy shark enthusiasts made it out alive or if this is, in fact, found footage from the inside of a great white shark's belly. Who could possibly say? Number 9. Shark in harbor. Now here's a guy who actually does seem to be having a bad day. Probably worse than yours, in all honesty. Or it could have been. Now, you should look before you leap, that's basic stuff. If you're a thrill-seeking, cliff-jumping lunatic, then you're already fairly immune to the regular human fears about personal safety or, the integrity of your limbs. So, perhaps the notion of jumping into water that may or may not contain deadly predators is not all that alarming to you. But perhaps you should still give the area a cursory glance beforehand anyways, just in case. This guy did not, however, and he very nearly didn't live to regret it either. As the man splashes into the water, the shark reacts with a swift turn, clearly startled by the sudden disturbance. The tension escalates as the man frantically swims toward the safety of the rocks, glancing back to see the shark's massive shadow lingering ominously beneath the surface. The footage from his head camera shows his plunge into the water, followed by a sudden and somewhat surprising realization that he's sharing his immediate space with none other than a great white shark. Oh, such fun. I've never known such excitement. Although, to be completely honest with you, it seems as though the footage could well have been faked because, well, people just love all that internet attention after all. Number 8. Great white shark. There are many different kinds of surprises, but it's quite likely that one involving a great white shark is probably not the kind of surprise that anyone is looking forward to receiving. Researchers off Cape Cod were taken by surprise when they had a rather too close for comfort encounter with a great white shark. The The massive sea creature breached the water and showed the surprised scientists several rows of distinctly pointy teeth. The breach was so sudden and powerful that water sprayed onto the deck of their research vessel, leaving the team momentarily frozen in shock. One of the researchers instinctively reached for a camera but fumbled, almost dropping it overboard. The shark lingered for a few moments, circling their boat as if sizing up its curious spectators. Its dorsal fins sliced through the water ominously, a haunting reminder of the shark's sheer size and dominance. Even though these marine biologists from the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy are experts in these animals, it still comes as a bit of a shock to get up close and personal with one when you are least expecting it. They took the opportunity to remind the public that sharks are wild animals. Their behavior is unpredictable, and it is important to remain vigilant in the summer waters around Cape Cod. Well, that all makes taking a dip seem like a rip-roaring barrel of laughs then. Number 7. Shark attacks tiny boat. Here are some utterly terrifying images that show just how flimsy a little boat can feel when you're confronted by a massive great white shark. David Tuckfield and his family were fishing from their small vessel off the coast of Western Australia when a very large and very grumpy great white shark took umbrage with their activities and made sure to let them be fully aware of its displeasure. The massive creature circled the boat several times, just as sharks are famous for, and then it literally began to attack the small boat. And you know that has to be pretty utterly horrifying. This was a great white shark that stalked the coastline in the famous 1975 movie Jaws, and it's really one massive and terrifying sea monster. The great white is a purpose-built killing machine with so many adaptations and features designed to make this shark one of the most efficient hunters on the planet. They have 3 rows of viciously sharp teeth, about 300 in total, and it seems that as many as half of all shark attacks on humans in the world may be attributed to great whites. Although these sharks may not always be out to kill the humans that they nibble on, I don't know how you can tell if a shark has good intentions. Some scientists have suggested that the shark is merely curious and taking a sample taste of a human but will discard them when it realizes it's not really what it was looking for. Not too comforting for the victim, though. The sheer size and enthusiasm of the bite can mean that many great white snack-sized nibbles end up being fatal anyway. Number 6. Small boat, big shark. Next up, we have a couple of guys in a very tiny boat surrounded by a very large amount of sharks. It sounds like a nightmare, but it's actually a scene from a documentary called Lair of the Mega Shark, and the 2 guys are actually shark experts, so you know it's probably going to be okay in the end. The massive great white shark begins to circle the tiny vessel. At one point, the shark nudges the boat with such force that it rocks dangerously, causing the men to grab onto the edges for dear life. Water splashes into the boat as another shark's tail hits the side, creating a moment of sheer panic. The men attempt to use a pole to gently push the shark away, but it only seems to provoke the creature further. The tension heightens as a second great white joins the fray, adding to the chaos. They get more aggressive and curious, bashing into the boat. But are they trying to tip the people out? The sharks thrash their tails and show just how powerful they are and really how hopeless a couple of flimsy people in a miniature boat can be when a shark means business. It goes on, and you can imagine that if there were not a much larger vessel and plenty of safety things in place, this could be a terrifying last moment for a couple of dudes in a boat. But it's not. It's all for drama for television, and we'll move swiftly on. Number 5. Shark attacks spear fisherman. Here we are at Ascension Island with another spear fisherman, where this time we're apparently looking for yellowfin tuna, but I suspect that we're likely to get just a little bit more than we bargained for. The tuna gets speared, and then a couple of surprised visitors arrive for dinner. 2 sharks are also extremely interested in the diver's catch. He attempts to get to the surface and salvage the tuna, but the sharks have other ideas. He dispenses with the first attack by punching the shark on the nose. Let's see how that works. But the effect is only temporary, as the tuna on the line is just too tantalizing of a treat for the sharks to let go. One of the sharks lunges aggressively at the line, causing the fisherman to momentarily lose his grip. The water around him churns with bubbles and flashes of movement, amplifying the tension as the sharks grow bolder. At one point, one of the sharks comes so close that its tail nearly brushes the diver's face, adding an extra layer of panic. His heart pounds as he desperately tries to maneuver away, all while keeping a firm grip on his prized catch. A struggle then ensues as the fisherman attempts to hang on to his tuna, and the sharks take turns trying to take possession of it. The whole thing goes on for quite a few moments, and it's a frantic and anxiety-inducing affair as the sharks thrash about. The tuna gets stabbed in the head, and it's violent and dreadful. But ultimately, the guy gets his fish and the sharks leave with nothing. Number 4. Scuba diver attacked. Now, is this actually a shark attack? Probably not in the true sense of the word. I mean, if you're all dressed up in scuba gear with cameras and all of that business and you just so happen to take a dive with a bunch of sharks, is it really reasonable to expect those sharks to not be at least a little bit curious about you as well? Well, that is all that's going on here. These sharks appear to be swarming around the scuba divers, but they are just as interested in them as the divers are in the sharks. When a shark has a question about what kind of creature they may be looking at, well, they're going to attempt to figure that out, and they'll do it with their mouth. I know it's not entirely ideal for the person who's being tested, but it can be the best way for a creature like this to determine what is happening all around it. The shark isn't exactly keen on eating people, and many actual shark attacks do not result in the person being eaten. Rather, they are simply sampled, and the shark will then generally decide that it's not the sort of meal they were hoping for. They may even spit the test piece back out again. This video shows a curious shark using its mouth quite briefly. It doesn't even appear to make a hole in the diver's wetsuit, let alone draw any blood. So what is all the fuss really about? Number 3. Shark sneaks up on family. This family was out on the water for a nice, peaceful paddle about with a couple of kayaks and a paddleboard. But a nosy shark comes along to give them a real sensation of what it feels like to have all of their blood pumping around their bodies and just how loud their hearts can actually beat. The shark is captured on drone footage by a very boring man who talks about his drone and how he filmed this for like 3 hours before even showing the actual video. As the drone hovered above, the shark's sleek, dark shape became more apparent, gliding just beneath the water's surface. For a brief moment, it darted closer to one of the kayaks, causing the paddler to wobble slightly and nearly lose their balance. The family exchanged nervous glances, realizing just how vulnerable they were out in the open water. They could even see the shadow of the shark circling, its movements deliberate and unervingly calm. I managed to stay awake to finally see the shark swimming around near a kayak for a minute before the family realizes the shark is there. They bring their boats together to make themselves seem larger and more intimidating to the shark. Then it has a bit of a look at them and decides they're not all that interesting after all. Perhaps it heard the boring drone guy coming and decided to get away before it had to listen to all that explaining for the next 45 minutes. Who could possibly say? Anyway, this was a total non-event, and that is that. The end. Number 2. Shark attacks inflatable boat. In the waters off the coast of South Africa, sharks were up to yet even more mischief, where this time they were busy menacing a film crew who were out getting footage for the YouTube channel Max Animal. A great white shark came to investigate the inflatable boat they were using. Now, the thing is, when a shark investigates something, well, it tends to use its mouth. The shark's massive teeth punctured the rubber surface, causing it to deflate slightly and throwing the crew into a moment of panic. The crew scrambled to the other side of the boat, trying to balance the weight and prevent the vessel from tipping over. At one point, the shark clamped down so hard that it made an audible popping noise, which only added to the chaos. Some members of the crew started filming frantically, capturing the shark's inquisitive yet terrifying behavior. Yes, the shark chomped all over that rubber dinghy while it figured out what it was, whether it was food, and whether it was indeed something of interest. Fortunately, the shark ultimately decided that the boat was not that fascinating after all and eventually swam off in search of a surfer or something with even more delicious meaty parts. Number 1. Shark jumps onto boat. When you take a boat out to do a spot of shark fishing, the last thing that you may be expecting is for the catch to try and get into the boat by itself. But that's apparently exactly what happened on Captain Don Law's fishing boat. The vessel set out from Hampton Bay, New York, and began its journey along the coast of Long Island with the regular quota of passengers on board. Then suddenly, and fortunately for us, some bright spark on board managed to capture it on film. There he goes. Bye-bye. There is an additional passenger on deck, and this one's just a little bit fishy. The huge mako shark leapt clean out of the water and landed on the fishing boat, getting itself firmly wedged between the vessel's guard railing. Then it began to flail about wildly, as you would expect it to, really. The people on board tried to figure out just what to do about the stricken animal. They devised a scheme to release the beast and managed to wrangle it by using a rope, eventually lowering it back into the water. It wouldn't be sporting for the catch of the day to be so easily captured after all. I mean, even blood sports have rules of etiquette. That's probably enough shark drama and near-miss adventures for one day. Which of these close encounters sent shivers down your spine? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to check out more amazing content that's popping up on the screen. Until next time, stay safe and keep exploring.